What is up, everyone? I hope you're having a blessed day today. Thank you for going down this journey with me. And the topic today is this person is talking about my parents use God to justify all of their irrational emotional decisions. I'm sure we've met people who kind of put things on God when it's really their decision. It's been their choice, and they're like, well, God sent me in this direction. God doesn't make mistakes. And I mean, like, there's a certain truth to that. God doesn't really make mistakes, but does that mean that everything we do is walking in alignment with God and his teachings? Probably not. But at the same time, let's just hear what they have to say before we comment too much. But please let me know. I would like to hear your comment. Do you know anyone who has used God to justify irrational or very emotional decisions that later probably didn't align with his teachings? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear. Okay, so this person says, during the pandemic, my parents became more devout in their faith, which I have no issue with, as we should all strive to become closer to the Lord. Amen. Sadly, they've also habitually invoked the name of God to justify every decision of theirs that defies all logic. For example, they pulled my brother out of school in the middle of a semester with no clear plan to homeschool them. When I asked them about this, their answers were essentially that God led them to this decision and that everything would be okay. It's been almost 2 years since that decision, and one brother is a super senior. I think that means they have like a extra. They've been there an extra year. When asked about this, my parents became defensive. Ooh. This is how most things pan out with them these days. They make a decision that leaves you scratching your head. They say God led them to that decision. The decision, the decision ages like milk left in a desert, and then they become defensive when someone points that out. I'm not sure how to have a productive conversation with my parents out there about this flawed approach. Any advice would be appreciated. I bet a lot of people are dealing with this. I don't think this is a very unique situation to this one individual. Please, if you have advice, let us know in the comments below. I've met people like this, and I've met people that are like this that aren't even religious. They just, act very impulsively and have this attitude where everything's going to work out. And guess what the infuriating thing is? Maybe it's beautiful. Sometimes it's infuriating when you're watching it, but things do work out. I mean, like, unplanned pregnancies, that can be a shock and, horror as for some people. And then it turns out to have a beautiful baby and you love the baby. Everyone loves the baby. And it's just like, it's funny how like things kind of do work themselves out in a miraculous way. So I get what they're saying, but I also understand what this person's saying, where you should really be trying to be thoughtful and purposeful with your actions, especially when it's impacting like your children or your family and stuff like that. So honestly, I'm kind of on the fence both ways. I mean, the example they used, I understand why the person would be like, "What are you thinking? You're just taking your kid out of school with no plan? Like there should be a plan. It shouldn't just be." But then they're like, "God's plan," and I, I mean that's kind of true. Like things will work themselves out. It's not the end of the world that he is a super senior, and maybe this is kind of God's plan. But man, at the same time, you could just kind of justify every lack of decision, right? I think there's something where like God likes you to be very proactive. He doesn't like lazy people. He doesn't like, people. I think there's something in the Bible about sleeping too much isn't good. You should get enough sleep, but not too much. And I think in some sense, like you should put it up to God that he will figure things out. But I think you should also be like, trying to make the best decision and put a lot of effort into that. Like if they had taken the kid out and done their absolute best, everything they could think of, prayed to God when he responded, take that feeling and those thoughts and just like act upon it, really come up with a plan for them. And I think it's just like there's not a follow through. There's like the faith without follow through. I think I'm feeling is like what this person is kind of getting upset about. But honestly, I have been shocked how some people, even when they're not saying it so literally as like God will figure it out, they'll just be like, life figures things out, and it's so true. I've met people that were an absolute mess in high school, and they were able to turn their thing, like their life around in a matter of year, like 2 to 4 years. You can completely change the direction of your life, and for better or worse. And I feel like in some ways that's like the power of God and the power of just like you being like when you and God are working together, that's when miracles happen. I truly believe. I mean, it can happen just without you, but I feel like that's when it really, there's like something about like, um, you have to raise the sails for God, the wind to like come in and move the boat, kind of thing. Like you have to work too, And I feel like in some ways they're saying that they don't think that their parents are working enough. Like they're just kind of always like, God will fix it, which can be, very infuriating. But please let me know in the comments below. Do you know people like this? Do you think that this is a good way to live life? Like it's better to lean on the perspective that God will fix it all. This is God's plan, and because there's a power in that, in truly believing that things will work themselves out. That's a very amazing place to be at. But you also have to be one of those people that are like actively working every day towards your goals. I don't think it's, one or the other. So maybe I think that's where they're getting kind of upset. But as always, let me know in the comments what you think. I really am curious because, this is something that I think we all are dealing with in one way or another. How much do we have faith comparatively to how much we're like working on things? And ideally, I think it's like a marriage where you're working your absolute hardest to develop that plan and you give it up to God and surrender the expectation of the reality and know that God has an even more beautiful plan than what you have planned out. But I think there should be a plan. I think you should have a very specific, detailed visual for what you want and work towards that, but then also surrender it to God and realize that He will bless you in ways that you can't even imagine. And it's actually more beautiful than what you can imagine. In some ways, what you have planned for yourself, your goals, is a caricature of what God has, which is like a gorgeous painting. It's like one of those inside of the churches where everything on the ceiling is painted, and you're just like, oh, like this is so much cooler than what I was gonna, the painting I was gonna put up. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day, a blessed day. Thank you for coming here, and let me know in the comments below what you think. Have a good one. Peace.